Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. I hope you're all having a fantastic day. The studio lights were already warm when Mark Consuelos walked onto the soundstage that morning, the way they always were, bright, forgiving, promising. He wore his usual half smile, the one that said he was ready for another smooth hour of laughter, headlines, and easy banter. To the millions watching from living rooms and kitchen counters, Mark was a constant, dependable, unshakable, the guy who always landed on his feet. But that morning, something felt off. It was subtle at first, a hush where there should have been chatter, a producer who avoided eye contact, phones buzzing a little too often at the edges of the room. Mark noticed it all, though he told himself he was imagining things. Live television had a way of amplifying nerves, turning coincidence into conspiracy. Still, as he adjusted his mic and took his seat, the weight in his chest didn't lift. The show opened as planned. Smiles, jokes, applause. Mark delivered his lines with the precision of a man who had done this hundreds of times before. But halfway through the first segment, his gaze drifted, just for a second, to the control room. The director's face was tight, serious. Not the look that followed a missed cue or a running long segment. The look said something else entirely. During the commercial break, a stage manager approached him quietly. "Mark," she said, voice low, eyes kind. "They need to see you. Now." No context, no explanation, just now. He stood, heart thudding, and followed her down a narrow hallway that felt suddenly too long. The walls were lined with framed photos, smiling hosts, celebratory moments, years of television history. He'd imagined his own future among them, frozen in time as part of something bigger. The conference room door closed behind him with a soft click. 3 executives sat at the table, legal folders, tense posture, no coffee. That's when he knew. "Mark," one of them began, clearing his throat, "this isn't easy." The words blurred after that. Restructuring, creative direction, effective immediately. Sudden firing. No warning, no transition, no final show. Just like that, the role he'd poured his energy into, his voice, his heart, was gone. At first, Mark didn't speak. He stared at the grain of the table, tracing invisible lines with his eyes. He'd played countless dramatic roles in his career, but nothing prepared him for the hollow silence of this moment. "I thought we were doing well," he finally said, his voice quieter than he expected. I thought I was doing what you asked." One of them nodded, another avoided his gaze. Someone said, "This isn't personal." Mark almost laughed. Everything felt personal. He left the building through a side exit, baseball cap pulled low, hoping to avoid cameras that weren't there yet, but would be soon. News traveled fast in this world, faster than feelings, faster than truth. By the time he reached his car, his hands were shaking. He sat there for a long moment, gripping the steering wheel, breathing in shallow bursts. Then the tears came, unexpected, unstoppable. Not the dramatic sobs of a TV scene, but the quiet kind. The kind that slip out when the weight of disappointment finally breaks through years of resilience. For fans, the shock came hours later. Social media exploded with confusion and disbelief. What happened to Mark? Why wasn't he on today? This can't be real. Clips from old episodes resurfaced. His laughter, his warmth, the chemistry viewers adored. Comment sections filled with heartbreak and anger. People who'd never met him felt like they'd lost a friend. Inside his home, the mood was heavy but tender. Kelly noticed immediately when he walked through the door, the way his shoulders slumped, the silence that followed him like a shadow. "What happened?" she asked gently. Mark tried to answer, he really did, but the words tangled in his throat, and instead he just shook his head. She wrapped her arms around him, holding him the way she had through every high and low of their shared life. "They fired me," he finally said, the words raw. Just like that. Kelly didn't rush to fix it. She didn't offer platitudes. She just stayed there, letting him feel it all. Because sometimes love isn't about solutions. It's about permission to break.
Mark barely slept. He replayed conversations in his mind, searching for missed signs. He wondered if he'd failed, if he'd been too honest, too emotional, too himself. In an industry that praised authenticity, it seemed there was always a line you weren't supposed to cross. No one ever told you where it was. The next day, paparazzi photos surfaced. Mark, sunglasses on, jaw tight, leaving his house. Headlines followed. Fans stunned by emotional fallout. Mark Consuelos' sudden exit sparks outrage. But none of them captured the quiet moments. The way he sat on the edge of the bed, staring at nothing. The way he flinched when his phone buzzed, unsure if it was support or speculation waiting on the other end. Then came the messages. Former coworkers, actors he hadn't spoken to in years, crew members, fans. You mattered. You made my mornings better. This isn't the end. One message from a long-time viewer stopped him cold. I watched you through some of the hardest years of my life. Seeing you smile helped me believe things could change. Mark set the phone down and pressed his face to his hands. Maybe this wasn't just an ending. A week later, he decided to speak, not to defend himself, not to spill secrets, but to be honest. In a quiet, unfiltered video, Mark addressed the fans directly. No studio lights, no cue cards. Yes, it hurt, more than I expected. But I'm learning that losing a job doesn't mean losing your worth. And if this moment reminds even one person that it's okay to fall apart and still move forward, then maybe it has a purpose. The response was overwhelming. Support poured in. Opportunities followed. New projects, unexpected calls, doors he hadn't even knocked on yet. And slowly, the weight began to lift. Mark still had days when the loss stung, when he missed the routine, the team, the rhythm of live TV. But he also rediscovered something else. Space, time, the freedom to choose what came next instead of being chosen for. One evening, sitting on the porch as the sun dipped low, Kelly squeezed his hand. "You know," she said softly, "I've never seen people love someone on screen the way they love you. That doesn't disappear because a contract ends." Mark smiled, really smiled, for the first time in weeks. The firing had stunned fans. The fallout had shaken him to his core. But in the wreckage, something unexpected had emerged. Clarity. He wasn't done. He was just getting ready for his next chapter. And this time, he'd write it on his own terms.